Last Battle, Ie Shima, 1945, is designed by Michael Ranella, co-produced by Take Aim Designs and Revolution Games. It came out in October 2015. It's an area impulse game covering the last island conquered in the Pacific theater of World War II. Let's go inside and take a look at this.
Here is a look at the map. First I want to say something that he sent me, Mike Ranella, the designer, had asked me to make a Vassal playtest module for this, and he had sent it to me. This is a topographical map. I believe it's from the Ernie Pyle Museum he got it from. But he sent it to me, sent the counters. It looked good. He's a pretty good artist. But at the end, he got Charles Keebler to come in. And it's pretty cool. I got to look at it as a win because I looked at the final product versus this, and Charles did a really good job. I see why the guy's a legend. I said this thing was designed by Take Aim and Revolution. He'd started Take Aim so games wouldn't be in the queue so long. You know, sometimes they'll sit there for years waiting to get published, so he could shorten the publish time. And it's also pretty cool. He's like putting your money where your mouth is. You really believe in your game, you're putting a lot of money up for this to co-publish it and split the profits. He works with Revolution because they know a lot about the business, got the distribution, things like that going on, so they co-produce this game together. This is the second one. Battle Axe was the first one. Been real impressed with what these guys did. It also got Revolution on the map, on my radar, and I've got another one of their games I've been real impressed with. But anyways, this is the view of the map, and this shows the island itself. Down here you have your turn track. If you're familiar with these games, you have impulse tracks, which could go from 3 to 12 impulses per turn. You don't know when it's going to end. Victory point track, these are the beach approaches where they start and they're going to have to activate to come onto the beach. And then you got some support markers and bombardment markers, places, sequence of play. So it looks very good, very functional. That's the best part about it all. Each one of these areas, I'll get a little closer in on it, they're numbered, each area, like 1, 2, 3, and then they have a number, +1, +2, +3, +4, and that's a defense bonus that they're going to give. The more rugged the defense, the higher the bonus. And then square ones are for urban areas, and there's setup rules about that. And then some of these will have victory point values on them for scoring these, for controlling these. It's very much based on the Breakout Normandy system. Vacant areas, free areas, contested areas, enemy controlled areas. You spend movement points. I'm going to bring in one of these pieces here. See, there we go. That 4-6, that's an attack value and a movement value. Cost a point to move to an area, a free area, meaning no enemy units, but it costs 2 to move into it if there's an adjacent enemy unit. It's like they're harassing you. To move into an area that has enemy units in it, if there's any full strength in there at all, 4 points. If they're all reduced, 3 points. So it follows this. You've probably seen this if you're familiar with Monty's Gamble, some of the other games, Birth of a Legend, things like that. So when it comes your turn, you pick an area. You say, I'm going to, oh, by the way, I was going to preface this, just in case anybody played this game and knows more about it. I don't have all the counters set up. I had just part of it shown up just to kind of give a feel for it. When it comes your turn, you activate, or your impulse, I should say. It's your impulse. The Americans will Japanese start. They'll pick an area and they'll say, I want to activate this, and then you say either the type you do. You tell the type of impulse you're doing, I should say. You either have one where you're going to move everybody one area over to a free area. It can't be into an enemy, but I think it's like a reorganization. I can't remember the name for it. And then the other is an assault. And in the assault, you say, I'm going to pick this area, and they're going to move. They don't have to move into the enemy and assault them, but it's not going to be everybody on all your sides get to move one free. You can move this guy here, this guy there. You could have these two assault if you so felt like it. It's not a smart move, but you could do that. And then after you've done all your movements with your guys, if you have a combat, if you enter an enemy area and there's none of your units in there, you automatically combat. And I'll get to that. I'll close in on that here in a second and do that. If there's already your units in there, you don't have to. I mean, it's optional at that point. You can also, if you're in an area with the enemy, you can pull out as long as you move into an area, a free area. So a lot of this you may recognize if you play these type of games. Has a lot of clever things in it compared to some of them. There's a Japanese special units up here. You can spin an impulse to bring in, I believe it's 4 units, trying to go by memory here. They have to be in different areas. So you can bring them in, and then during night turns you can bring them into enemy areas and attack if you want. So you get a little bit of flexibility here. It represents things like machine guns, pillboxes, locally armed people. So you get this aspect going on here. Also, you can choose to do a bombardment. I'm going to show you one. This is a naval ship. Let's see if I can get it in there good. Has an 8 on it. You can just place it down. So I'm going to bombard that area, and then you're going to go through the bombardment sequence. And there's also a air support one. I mean, there's an air attack, basically, like kind of like strafing or something. And then you got barraging from ground units. And also, then you also have these tank supports, which I'll get into in the combat system. After both players go, Japanese and then the Americans go. When the Americans roll the dice for the first time in that impulse, that will be the impulse check. Right now I'm showing this on impulse 3. If you rolled, it's 2 dice. If you roll boxcars, turn-ins. If you roll a 3, you get a weather change. You flip it over. And weather change will slow your movement down and provide air units or ground, you won't get air support. Otherwise, you just move it to the next one. Except, this is pretty cool for this, just because I saw how the playtest worked out. If you do a bombardment, the Americans do a bombardment, you do not advance that marker. You just keep on, I mean, it's just like a Japanese go, American bombard. Japanese go, American can bombard again. Japanese go, America's assault, then you roll for it. So that was a way, because it was too balanced in favor of the Japanese, it was too hard to conquer in time. So that was a way he come up with to basically kind of slow it down and balance it out. He spent a long time, like, I don't know, 10 months or 12 months or something, pretty heavily play testing this to fine tweak it. Now, in the concept of the game, to win it, it's the basic game, or there's 2 scenarios, 4 impulses. At 4 impulses, the Americans, I believe, have to have a certain number of victory points. If they don't have it, then they have to. Then you can extend the game, and they have to control every area on the map. Control means they can't contest. If you move in this area and you don't resolve the fight, where one side's not eliminated or retreated or something, you're both in the area, and whoever had it first is still controlling. So like if these guys move here, the Japanese control until they're driven out. So the Japanese could be forced to retreat into a different area, but you have to control every area in this map in order to get the decisive victory. Now, there's no way the Japanese are going to conquer the Americans and drive them off of this island. I mean, their resources just weren't there. So the balance is can you do this faster than they historically did it? So at one point, you have to have a certain number of victory points or drive them off the island, your choice, how long you want to play the game. Game plays in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Kind of depends on how well your impulse rolls go. They could go all the way up to 12, and if you still haven't rolled the 12, or you roll the 12 and get boxcars, it just ends at that point. So that's kind of a basic turn. Now let's zoom in a little bit and look at a close-up of the combat. I got a little close-up here to talk about how to combat in this game. When you assault, for instance, I'm going to activate this area. These units, you can move any and all of them, like I said, but it's only this area, it's not another area. So I'm going to choose to move into this area here. The other is just a control marker showing the Americans control it. If there's no, it is flipped. You can have a Japanese control, but it's a lot easier if you just say, if not marked, it's Japanese. So I bring these units in here. The way you do combat is you're gonna, if you want, as the Americans, if you have the units available, you have this support marker here down on the side, and you have, that's an artillery support and a tank support. You have to roll to see if you get them, and there's modifiers for that based on if they're I think the weather might be in it. I know that tanks are affected if you're going into a square area, which is an urban area. But if you get them and you succeed, you'll get this added to your group, your combat value. The way you do it is you pick a lead unit. Each side picks a lead. You're generally often going to want to pick the strongest unit. Well, all 4 of these are 4 for theirs. So you pick the first one for the attacker. So this would be 4 points. Then it's +1 for each full strength unit participating. So 4, 5, 6, 7. If you have all 4 units of the same color, and you can see this is a different color than that one, you get I think a regiment integrity bonus of +1. So they have that. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you had both of these, it'd be 9, 10, 11. So you're going to come in here with 11 and rolled 2d6, and that'll be your attack value. Sorry, I forgot something in here. If the weather is clear, you're going to get +1 for an air superiority air assault. If the weather is rainy, you're not going to get that. For the defender, you pick the lead unit, which in this case I'd want the pillbox at 5. They're 1 point for any unit. I don't know if I said it or not. These are +1 if they're full strength, half a point in support if they're reduced. For these, the defender, it's +1 period, reduced or not. So he'd be 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you're going to get this terrain bonus, 9, 10, 11. So that +3 in there. This rubble marker, I'll talk about how that come about in a second. That rubble marker will add an additional 1 to it. If the Japanese were the ones attacking, they can roll up a satchel charge. It's kind of like an IED. They can add that to as many attacks as they want on an impulse. Japanese attacks aren't too wise. You can do a couple, but it's just something you don't want to do a lot. And anyway, so you roll those up, add the 2d6 to it, and then if the attacker's number is higher, well, I can talk about the defender's higher. If the defender's higher, they repulsed them. All of the attackers are going to be flipped to their reduced side and then retreat from the area from whence they came. If the values are equal, it's a stalemate. The lead unit is reduced. If it's already reduced, it's eliminated. But nobody else retreats. If the attacker is greater than the defender, the lead unit on the attacker is automatically going to reduce, and if he's already reduced, he's going to be eliminated. The defender is going to take you take the difference. So let's say my difference was 21 to 18, so there's 3 points of difference. The first point must be taken by the lead unit. So you spend a point to reduce, if you wanted, a point to then retreat. You have to retreat a reduced unit. You can't retreat full strength units. And 3 would eliminate a unit. So it's like reduce, retreat, eliminate. So if I took 3 points, I could go 1, 2, 3, something like that. Because this guy has, oh yeah, he does that flip side. So it's your choice how you wish to do that. That brings up some interesting problems for the Americans, because you may not want to lose a unit because you'll forever lose your battalion integrity bonus. So sometimes you may want a lead unit to be a reduced unit or something like that, or how you're going to take your losses. It's real interesting how that goes. It creates little challenges you'll see as you play the game. But that is how you do a combat. If you beat the defender but you haven't eliminated or made them all retreat, you're both in there and you're contesting the area. The Japanese, you don't control it, you're contesting it. So if you have the control conditions, you haven't succeeded yet, and it gets pretty tough to drive them out. Alrighty, to bombard, you would put the unit in there, declare you're going to bombard. And like I said, this doesn't push up the impulse at all. In this case, you take the 8 and add 2d6 to it. For the defender, they'll designate a lead unit, so you can do some damage to eliminate, like maybe I don't want that pillbox gone or something. I'm going to designate the lead unit, and then they're going to take the terrain modifier, in this case 3, the rubble point would give them +1, and they're going to roll 2d6. And if you are greater, you have to be greater than what the defender puts up. If you're less than or equal, nothing happens. But if you're greater, then the lead unit has to take the first point, and then you can do the rest like you normally do in combat. The great thing on this combat system, when you assault into the area and you roll the dice, this is big. If you've ever played these games and you've done this wrong, fix this. Sometimes there's a habit of you roll the dice and then you forget, oh yeah, I got to roll the impulse, then you roll another dice for the impulse. Don't do that. What this represents is, let's say I'm on impulse 6, and I roll for my combat, and I roll snake eyes or something. That is going to end the turn, but also what it represents is I probably did really bad in combat if I rolled snake eyes. It's kind of like you had a whole lot of confusion, disorganization, and it took a lot longer to pull this attack off. Or if you barely won the battle, it took an awful lot of time in order to get your pieces aligned in order to do this. So it abstractly captures a very bad, disastrous attack. So be sure, when you roll the dice, the first time as the Americans, you check the impulse, unless it's in bombardment, in which case you ignore it. So the system, you see this in a lot of these games, and if you've played other area impulse, you're not doing that, be sure to do it, because it's very key to these games. That's the basics of how this system works. One more thing I forgot to mention. This is the battle where Ernie Pyle died at, and you can see they put a sign up, the historical sign. This is abstractly captured in the game, the effect, the morale he had for the troops. In a combat, you can throw his piece in and get a +1 to your attack value. The Japanese have a piece, I think you pronounce it Major Agawa. You don't have to, you do it once per turn, not once per impulse, just once per turn. Now, if, let's say the Americans put Ernie Pyle in there, if the attack equals the defense, the total, he's killed in action. You flip it over to the KIA. Same with the Gawa too, if he's in the battle, and they're the same. So that's how that mechanic works. It's not like he's out there leading the troops. It's just, the positive effect he had on them. Pretty neat thing, as kind of was in part of the game also, was a brochure from the Ernie Pyle Museum. They worked with them on this and gave some pretty neat literature on it too. If you also give you information if you want to donate to that or want to go visit it. So anyways, that's the game, and pretty solid system.
So now that we've looking at it, here's my thoughts on it. I am a huge fan of the area impulse system. The reason I like it so well is because it's so flexible. I don't care if you're dealing with spears, musket and pike, machine guns. If you're going to move into an area over that size, you're going to have to assault into it unless you use a nuclear bomb or something. So the system is extremely flexible and goes across a wide range. If you're the defender and they're moving into your area, you're always going to have the terrain advantage. So this system, I just love it, and I've played it across a great many years, over different years in different battles. The system works so well. And Ranella is pretty much the master of it. He didn't invent it. It's heavily influenced by Breakout Normandy, because he's a WBC champ in that game. You can tell it's a heavy influence on his design. But he's pretty much, I believe, made more games using that system than any of the designers out there. So I guess two things to look at is, how does this compare to his other games, for instance, and other area impulse games? As far as his games, I am kind of new to the game. I've had it since October, so look me up in a year and a half and I'll have a really fully developed opinion. But my initial reaction is it's going to be one of the best area impulse games out there. Breakout Normandy has always been my gold standard. Not War But Murder by Ranella has been one of my favorites, but I think this is right there with Not War But Murder. Simple game, but it's very deep. As far as it's very, very well balanced game. The strategies are a lot deeper than a lot of the others I've played, or maybe it's just the others weren't coming to me as quickly. As far as others Ranella games, I am a huge fan of Shifting Sands. That's one that got me turned on to his game. So that's always had a soft spot with me. But I think my first reaction, I was blown away the first time. So I knew that was a good thing when I saw it. Now, I do have a history with this, because he had contacted me some year and a half or so before he made this and asked me about making a playtest vassal module. So, he sent me the rules and, the map and everything, so I made it out for then. And then when I saw the final product, I got to see just how much more he'd put in it through the playtest. And so I was really impressed with that. It blew me away. Since then, the other games I've played, I've really, really been impressed. First time I played it, I could see right away I played it solitaire. I could see the mistakes I made for both sides and what I could have done to make it better. So it's not a game with a super steep learning curve, but at the same time, there's not a sameness to it, if that's a word. I don't think it is, but you can play it perfectly well solitaire because there's no hidden information. But it's not like the old, let's say the old Avalon Hill hex encounters, where the obvious move's there. Did you really see it? And you're really just balancing your odds and rolling the dice. because in these games have this variable ending to the turn. So you got to figure out what you're going to do in your turn. Also, how you use your artillery versus when you're going to assault, that makes a big difference. So the moves aren't quite so obvious, and you might be wanting to assault different areas. So it has a nice tournament play feel to it. Also plays well by email. So it has a lot of things going for it, and the quick setup takedown 2-hour time is always a big plus with me. Simple rule book, 10 pages I believe it is. If you've played these area impulse games, you know about at least 75 to 80% of the rules. So it's just a really well designed game. It kind of shocked me just how it blew me away so much better than the other area impulse games. So the thing that really works about it is that it's a really good introductory game. It's not super simple, but it's a real easy game if you want to get into area impulse. This is about as good as it is to get into it. And if you know area impulse, you're going to get a kick out of it because you're going to see the differences that it offers in the others, and you're going to see the challenges that this one has to offer. So my first reaction was, when I first played it, was I wish I'd got the game earlier in the year because it might have been my game of the year. So it might be my game of the year for 2016. We'll see. It's really a good one. Been really impressed with this one. Ranella really knocked it out of the ballpark from a guy who really knows this genre very well.